Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into something powerful. When you hear an official story, how is that story actually made? And, maybe more importantly, how does it all start to fall apart when you look a little closer?
So how do we get to the bottom of this? Well, we're going to look at two completely different stories. One's about a big international trade deal. The other, it's about a really dark criminal conspiracy. But you know what's wild? They share this surprising common thread when it comes to who controls the story. All right, first up, let's talk about a recent trade deal between India and the United States. And what's just fascinating here is that both countries are celebrating, but for completely opposite reasons.
Okay, so check this out. On one side, you've got the Indian government and its supporters calling this deal a total masterstroke. But then, over on the other side, the US is basically shouting from the rooftops that this is a huge win for American farmers. So, who's telling the truth here?
I mean, the American side isn't being subtle about it at all. Their story is crystal clear. They see this as a massive victory, a way to finally crack open India's huge market for all their farm products.
But then, you flip back to India, and the official story is the complete opposite. They're saying, hey, local farmers, don't worry about a thing. We've got your back. Your interests are totally protected. The two stories they don't line up at all.
And, no surprise here, this has kicked off protests. The Samyukta Kisan Morcha, you might remember them from the big protests back in 2020, they're warning that this whole deal could be a disaster. They're saying that flooding the market with super cheap, subsidized U.S. farm products could absolutely devastate small farmers in India.
And here's the real kicker. The actual details of the deal? They're secret. They're being kept from the public, even from Parliament. So you've got both sides claiming this massive victory, while everyone else is just left in the dark, trying to figure out what's really going on.
Now that whole theme of secrecy and controlling the story, it takes a much, much darker turn with our second case. Because here, a convenient official story wasn't just hiding the fine print of a trade deal. No, this one was used to cover up a horrific truth for years. A truth that went all the way to the highest levels of global power.
We're talking about the story of Jeffrey Epstein, a scandal that pulled in billionaires, politicians, even royalty. And it all centered on his private island, a place that people who live nearby started calling Pedophile Island.
Just take a look at this timeline. For more than a decade, it feels like the entire system was designed to protect him, not the people he hurt. It all started with a really brave complaint from a young girl back in 2005, but then it led to a secret deal that just shut it all down. And it all wrapped up with an ending that honestly left way more questions than answers.
And that number right there, 36. Let that sink in. That's how many young victims just the Palm Beach police had identified way back in 2006, right before that secret deal came along and basically killed the entire investigation.
So the official story was suicide. But for a lot of people, that just didn't add up. It didn't feel right. And that uncertainty, it created this huge vacuum, and conspiracy theories just rushed in to fill it. And those flames were fanned, at least at first, by some really powerful people, including the president at the time, Donald Trump. Okay, so this is where it all comes together. This is where our two stories, the trade deal and the Epstein scandal, show us the exact same playbook. The playbook you use to control the story when the real truth is, well, inconvenient.
Just look at this. It doesn't matter if we're talking about an economic policy or a criminal scandal. The tactics to control the narrative are pretty much identical. Step 1, you get loyal media to frame the story just the way you want it. Then, step 2, when the public starts pushing back, you see these political U-turns and flip-flops. And finally, the biggest tool in the shed, official secrecy. You just keep the most important information locked away.
So after all is said and done, after all the official statements, the blacked-out reports, the non-stop media spin, what are we actually left with? What's the stuff that's still being hidden from all of us?
Well, in the Epstein case, the truth is still buried under a mountain of paperwork and thick black marker. We're talking more than 1 million pages that are still under wraps. And the documents we have seen, they're so heavily blacked out, they're basically useless. And that so-called client list, yeah, that has never, ever been officially released.
And that leaves us with one last really important question, one that applies to both of these stories and so many others. If the powerful people get to write the official story, who is left to find out what really happened? It's a pretty stark reminder, right, that the first draft of history is often just that, a draft, and it's usually written by the people who have the most to gain, or maybe the most to hide. It just goes to show how crucial it is to question the stories we're told, especially when the most important details are kept in the shadows.